on the bench today, what is a 1624T, which the internet tells me is a well-loved Supro model. This one, it's dirty. It's seen a lot of stuff, as you saw in the intro, but it's really solid. The case still looks good. The Tolex is still in really good shape, and I know that we can get a lot of this stuff respectfully cleaned up as we do some restoration work on this. I see that somebody's been in it with a soldering iron and replaced the cord. They put this really ugly corrugated tubing stuff on the speaker leads. We'll be getting the hell rid of that. It's got what looks to be a no-name speaker in it. We'll check that out. It's got a pretty decent sized magnet on it, so let's get the back off of this thing and see what it looks like on the inside. Drywall screws holding the back cover on. That's a good sign. This is a week of firsts for me. I have never been into one of these amplifiers before. Ready for the reveal? Ooh, she got cobwebs. Smells like cigarettes. First thing I like to do, any amplifier that I get into, is just get my eyeballs in here and see what's going on. We've got some really ugly used little connecting nuts here, so we'll be getting the hell rid of those. The ground is at least going to its own place on the chassis, so that's good. I don't see anything immediately jumping out at me as being in super bad shape. I do see the original cap can is in there, so we're gonna have to get that replaced. Couple of caps here and there. It looks like the circuit doesn't have a whole lot of caps in it. There's an electrolytic there and there that are gonna get replaced, and that cap can. I'm not gonna mess with any of the coupling caps in here. They might be fine, but yeah, it's not looking too bad in here. Got the old push-on style tube shields. That's kind of neat. It's missing one. I might have one laying around. I'll have to look and see what I've got. We've got 3 12AX7s, a 6973, actually two 6973s. They're just both very different shapes from each other. And it looks like, oh, this is the rectifier tube. This is a 5Y3. So it's got mismatched 6973 output tubes here. So we'll have to check that out. We might end up having to grab a pair of those that actually match each other. But I am going to go ahead and pull all these out, and I'll test them and see that they're good. And I think this one is just going to be a lot of cleanup and a lot of just getting all the junk out of here that somebody has done a pretty typically bad job with. But other than that, I think that's a pretty quick intro video for this one. I'm going to get in here and make a list. And I've got a parts order that I'm kind of building up right now. Things that I need to get for other amps you've seen, and some, I don't know, maybe some you haven't. I think I've showed both of them. I'm curious where they had the neutral going. They've got the neutral going to a switch. I don't know, that's a weird setup there. Oh, it's got a polarity switch on it, so I'm going to be replacing that too with just a single one-way switch, just off and on. We don't need that polarity junk in there. Got a lot of cracked solder joints in here that are just old dry solder joints. And just some rusty crusty that's going to have to be cleaned out of there. But otherwise, I'd say that it's in pretty decent shape. You know, what's interesting is I might have been able to tell what kind of speaker that this was, but somebody has painted the back of this little magnet here. So that's fun. But it seems like a decent quality speaker. So, and this amp doesn't put out a whole lot of wattage, so that should be fairly easy. I'm gonna have to see if I can maybe come up with some proper knobs for this. It's missing 2 of them. It looks like probably 2 big ones here, or potentially 2 small ones. I'll have to look up some pictures and see. And as always, I like to see what kind of tube has been stuck in here. Oh, it's got a 15 amp fuse in it. Listen to me. Listen. Don't put a 15 amp fuse in your amplifier. Going out and buying the proper fuse that might blow is a lot cheaper than the inside of your amplifier not being protected by this fuse because something is shorting out and this is not blowing. I'm guessing it should have maybe a 1 amp, 1.5 amp fuse. It looks like somebody wrote 3 amp up there. I don't even think that that's proper. I might have to look that up, but this 15 amp fuse right here is going in the trash can. So yeah, I think that's about it for this intro video. I'm gonna probably shoot some more. I may not start the cleanup on this until I actually have the new parts here. I like to kind of do it all in one go. But this should be a fun project. I'm excited to get it done. And like I said, I've never had one of these in here before. So that's it for this video. We'll be back with more of this one later, and I'll have updates on the Silvertone and Ampeg and stuff like that as well. I got to get the parts ordered for those. I'll make a list for this one as well so I can get all that at the same time. But that's it. See you guys later. So what you see here is deplated and cleaned up hardware. I am going to nickel plate all this stuff, like I said. I left this in evaporust overnight. That got rid of the rest of the rust that was on all these pieces inside and out. And I wire wheeled them on my drill press this morning just to clean off all the junk. And then I cleaned them thoroughly with 99% isopropyl alcohol to make sure there's no contaminants on them. So now I'm going to get this all set up. I've got a pure nickel strap in here, just held up with a clothespin so it doesn't move over and make contact. I'm going to do this in some sort of separate batches, because it's going to take a lot more to plate this bigger stuff than it is like these finish washers. And you know, it's one of those funny things. I could just replace these finish washers, but I think it's cool that they're the original ones, and they're actually still in pretty good shape here. So I think with some plating and polishing they'll be good. These are real big ones that are used on the front of the amplifier to hold the baffle into the cabinet. So, and the screws, the threads are still a little bit ugly. I cleaned them up as best I could. You don't see these anyway. I'm really just gonna plate them for protection's sake, just to keep them from corroding. But yeah, I'm not really going to show the process. It's a little bit tedious, and you're just going to see bubbling stuff down in here. But once I get all this stuff plated, I will show you the finished polished product. Also, everybody say hello to Cookie. This is our friend's kitty who lives with us right now. She's a sweetie Petey. I say that as she puts her claws into me. Here's your one tiny gratuitous nickel plating shot. Bubbling a bit strong. I have the voltage fairly low. Leave that in there for a couple minutes, and then we'll move on to the next ones. Like I said, I'm not going to show you the whole process, but I know that you guys want to see the science, so there you go. So here we are, sort of mid-end of the process with the hardware here. I've just got done plating all of this with nickel. You can see it's still quite messy on my desk, but you can see I got a pretty nice even layer on all of the hardware here. A lot of times I will machine polish this stuff, just kind of put the polishing wheel in my drill press and use that, but there's a lot of tiny pieces here and I'm afraid they're just going to go flying across the room. So I'm gonna probably do all this by hand. We'll see. These little pieces, you never see them. They're under these beauty covers. These are what holds the handle on. But like I say, I got a nice even coating deposit of nickel on all this stuff, so I will start getting this polished up. And while I've got you on camera, I'm gonna sort of awkwardly bring you over to the cabinet that I've been working on sort of behind the scenes. If you remember from the beauty shots, it was in pretty ugly shape. It was pretty filthy. So I washed it, I don't know, 4 or 5 times. I did like 3 simple green scrubs with a toothbrush and a little nylon brush just to get the majority of the gunk off, and then I came back with some car wash liquid, actually, with a little bit of water, and got in there, let it sit for a while, scrubbed it really good. This stuff is rough enough that stuff kind of sits in little valleys on the Tolex. But I got a majority off, and I gotta say, if you remember from the beauty shots at the beginning, it's quite a bit cleaner. This, you could barely see this pinstripe. It was like brown in the very first part, so it's looking really nice now. I also, while I was waiting for things to plate over here, a bunch of this Tolex, this entire thing had sort of peeled off all the way down. So I got in there with contact cement and got the surfaces coated and got that put back into place. I also did the bottom. Somebody at some point had decided to fix one of the edges. I'm so sorry, my camera work is not great. I understand that. This had come up on both sides, actually, and somebody had tried to just screw this back down with a bunch of tiny screws, which is just, I don't know why you would do that. There's a million different kinds of glue you could have used that would have worked better than a bunch of screws. So I got that, you know, back down with contact cement the way that it should be. You can't even really see the screw holes that well, and they're on the bottom, but I just wanted to get it, you know, properly fixed there. So definitely a lot better than this cabinet was to begin with, and I can't wait to get the rest of it all cleaned up and get this thing going again. So here you go. I think that I should probably make it known, or at least say it once. I know that these things don't look brand new, and I'm not trying to make them look brand new. They were tarnished, they were flaky, they were crusty. They just didn't look good. And since I've done work to clean up the cabinet, and I'm kind of giving the thing, you know, a good restoration, make it look like it's been taken care of. I'm just doing what I can to make it look a little better. You know, these, it would be really great if they were, you know, perfectly smooth, but unfortunately they're not. I'm gonna move my monitor here so I can see myself. You can see there's a little bit of roughness on them, but they're much shinier than they were. They're not rusty anymore. They're definitely, you know, looking a lot better than they were for sure. The straps turned out really nice. Everything polished up pretty decent. And now I know that it's, you know, a lot more protected than it was. So, yeah, that's it. Well, for this part anyway. Here's some more stuff that just absolutely bugs the crap out of me. Somebody's put a different speaker in this. I don't know what it is. It seems like it's probably decent. But they cut off the original studs that held the speaker in. And then they used literally 4 different kinds of screws. And they didn't even evenly space them around. So I'm going to pull the speaker off, see what I can clean up, and make this proper, because this is not very thick, and those 4 mismatched screws is just, I can't deal with that. It's got to be better. Just realized you weren't really looking at it, but yeah, it's just that's not okay. Got to fix that. I had to turn the camera on for long enough just to show you this. Inside, this was inside of, God, I always forget the name of this stuff. It's not corrugated tubing. I know there's a word for it that I can't, but this ugly shit was over the top of this. I pulled it out, and it's literally just lamp cord tied into the original output wires from this transformer. It's pretty ridiculous. Thankfully, this transformer is fairly clean. It just needs a little bit of scrub-a-dub, and it should be fine. But I am also about to pull out the power supply. So far, it's going all right. Just a little slow. Now, what I'm not going to show you very much of on camera here, is the cleanup of the control plate of this. It's going to be tedious. It's going to take me a long time. Much of the writing is already gone. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do about that yet. See, the difficult thing is this stuff was silk screened on, so there's not really any easy way for me to put that back on. I could make decals. You're going to see the edges. I wouldn't necessarily try to do this on the Cricut because those letters are so intensely tiny. I just can't imagine having to weed that vinyl. So we'll see. See, part of the problem is that the entire thing really needs to be cleaned up. But it's going to be impossible to get it completely clean without removing a whole bunch of the other, stuff on the face of this. It's wild how wet this thing has gotten. I don't know if... Let me see if I can actually show this to you here. That's pretty crusty. So I may... Let me see how easy this is to do here. I may end up removing the power transformer completely. What I'm really doing is just getting a look at here where all these wires go and everything. I'd like to de-rust it and repaint it and get it protected again. Yes, I've got 2 wires here. Here's my heater circuit wires. There's my center tap. There's my rectifier 5-volt supply. And then my HT leads. So yeah, I may just go ahead and remove that transformer completely. I'm going to pull off these ridiculous fucking wire nuts. And we'll start getting into this thing. But yeah, what I'm going to do next, I'm going to go ahead and remove the power transformer so I can clean it, get it de-rusted. What's nice is the bell ends are removable, so I can take those off and clean them up without, you know, potentially hurting the core. And then we'll see how clean we can get this thing. Once that's done, I'm going to get in here, and amazingly, this thing only has a couple of electrolytics. This is another ridiculous thing. I just can't believe somebody did. They used this, like, giant, like, cable... I don't know what you would even call it. Cable clamp, I guess you would call it, to stop that from pulling through the other side when they replaced it. The original would have been probably like a 2-prong, and when somebody put a 3-prong in this, they had no easy way, I guess, to hold the cord in here. So they used that ridiculous thing. And then put a self-tapper through to stop it from turning, and there's no way I would believe that is original. I don't know. You never know back then. I highly doubt it, though. What I may end up doing is getting in here with a Dremel and some files and things and put a proper, you know, Heiko style... I don't have one sitting here, but the kind of thing you'd see in a fender, that plastic thing that, you know, clamps down on it and plugs into the metal to hold that into place, because that's pretty ridiculous. So anyway, I am going to off camera pull a bunch of this apart and get it all cleaned up, and we'll come back for the stuff we're going to do with the circuit. I somehow neglected to do any sort of shots of all of the things that I did to this amplifier. De-rusted everything, painted the transformer bell ends. The front of the panel that you see here, I de-rusted it quite a bit. A lot of the words were missing, so I used my girlfriend's Cricut to recreate the words so you can actually see what they do. I also made 2 new knobs. I took silicone castings of the old ones and remade them, and just did so much cleaning. Yeah, circuit's all good. It's working great. So let's get into the next part here. Well, I would say this Supro's turned out pretty darn good. As I talked about before, the speaker that was in it was not the right impedance. It was a 4 ohm and this needs an 8 ohm. My buddy who owns the shop had a Hammond like extension cabinet on hand that had an 8 ohm speaker in it. It's got the little whizzer cone inside, which is really cool. It just barely fit in here, and I'll get you a little bit closer so you can see. I actually had to orient the speaker differently to get it to fit inside this cabinet. Once again, my camera skills are, I just move the camera while I'm going and you deal with it. Was that a fun little ride there? So yeah, so if you look down here, I don't even know that you can see really well on camera. There's about a 1/16 of an inch gap at the front of the where this is, maybe an 1/8 inch. It's not going to touch at all. It's not going to be a problem as far as interference goes, but they are real close to each other. But that's a super cool speaker. Sounds really good. The cone is absolutely perfect. And yeah, so I'm going to get this all back together, and that'll be it for this super exciting video. Here's a final shot of the top. I've been shooting this for long enough, I can't remember if I talked about this a lot or not, but I made some little masks on my girlfriend's Cricut with words with really similar text so that I could get the words back on here so that you can tell what these controls actually do. Just kind of made it a little nicer. And then 2 of these knobs are the repros that I made with epoxy with black mica resin from the little molds that I made of the originals, and they turned out really nice. So yeah, it's looking great, and it's going to be a good amp for somebody.